So we've made it through the German wire, and now we're approaching the German frontline trench. Now this trench is much more heavily eroded because it was never dug as deeply for training purposes. This was where the instructors would have sat. But in real life, this trench would have been this wide, 7 feet wide at the top, 7 feet deep. So it's a major obstacle for us to get across. And indeed, we would have to have carried wooden trestle bridges that we would throw across this to try and get over it. And the aim was not to get into this trench. The aim was to keep going, because this trench is really of no use to us. Remember that there's a firing step on this side so that the Germans can shoot at us, but on the back of the trench, it's 7 feet deep. We can't fire our rifles out of this trench. The only choice we have is, if we take it, we have to rebuild a firing step on this side, or we have to just get just beyond it and dig into shell holes. One of the problems with the First World War is that everything is horse-drawn. All the guns are pulled by a 6-horse hitch. So as we advance, what we're really doing is making it impossible eventually for our guns to support us, because we get out of the range that they can shoot. And then you have to get them across all of these trench systems. You can't jump a 7-foot wide ditch with a 6-horse hitch pulling a limber and a gun that weighs 3 tons. So engineers would then have to fill in the trenches, fill in the shell holes, make roads that cross all of this so our guns can get forward so we can shoot again to attack. Now, because behind the German lines in this case, there isn't the same level of destruction, what normally happens is one side pushes to the limit of its artillery fire and then is stopped because they have to wait to bring stuff forward. The other side is more easily able to mass reserves and artillery, and they counterattack and push them back. So for most of the war, the Western Front doesn't move more than about 40 kilometers east and west, and in that space, 10.5 million men are killed or wounded. From where I'm standing, if I was standing here in 1915, I would not make it to Brandon, Manitoba, which is about a 30-minute drive from where I'm standing, by 1918. The trenches just don't move that far. So again, the futility of this is almost overwhelming, and I can't imagine how men could stand being in that meat grinder from 1915 to 1918 and not have just gone absolutely mad. It would be celebrated as a great victory, but in reality what they had done is taken another couple of kilometers of completely destroyed landscape, which they were very likely to be pushed off of when the Germans got themselves together and counterattacked. Now at Vimy, for example, the Canadian bombardment was so heavy that the frontline German trenches looked like this. They had been completely collapsed by the artillery fire. In some cases, they weren't even this deep. Canadian units cross the German frontline trench and don't realize they've done it because it's just been completely obliterated.